There's no place in the world I'd rather be than right here, right now, with all of you. There's something about other people who have done the same thing with food that I've done that used to be so shameful that I held, in secret. I didn't want to tell anybody what I was doing with food. Something so powerful about being in a room where I can say, oh yeah, I used to eat out of the trash, and people go, yeah, me too. It's just a really, it's a feeling of belonging that I never had in my life. To be in a room full of people that understand. So thank you all for being here. When I was very, very brand spanking new to GreySheet, my very first meeting, the person who led the meeting said, being in your seat in a meeting is service. And I kept that to heart. And in Los Angeles, I never miss a meeting. I always go, suit up and show up and be there for the people. Because today I have a hole in my soul that I used to fill with with food, and now I fill with people. Which really dovetails into the topic for today. And thank you, Grania, for doing everything you do. I've organized a lot of these kinds of things, and it is not easy. And so it is not lost on me. Whether 2 people show up or 250 people show up, it's a lot of work. So thank you for everything that you've done. And if I had more soy nuts, I'd give it to you. Sorry to mention food in a meeting, but I've been the mule for, but apparently she had other mules, so I'm not sure about that. I thought I was the only mule. But anyway, so just like all of you, I weigh and measure 3 meals from our GreySheet. I don't eat in between no matter what, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. I am going to tell my story because I need, I feel that that's how we identify with one another. Unless you're a compulsive eater like me, most people don't understand what we go through as compulsive eaters. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And then I love this topic, Bridge Back to Life. It's absolutely divinely inspired or Grania inspired. I don't know which came first, but it's a great topic. Again, my abstinence date is July 17th, 1993. I just celebrated in Ireland 31 years of back-to-back GreySheet abstinence, and thank you. It went like a snap of a finger so quickly. But I did come to GreySheet in 1993, but in June. And then I had, I had to get conscious around my food. Our 11th step says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God. And I wasn't conscious. I was never conscious. And so for me to have that scale and be conscious and not putting food in my mouth while I'm preparing was like I had to be conscious. I had to be present. Or going out for the day, I had to consciously think, what do I need for the day, food-wise? I have 2 children, and when they were babies, I had to be conscious and bring, the bottle, the diapers, the wipes, the snacks, the books, the extra pair of clothes. I had to do that for my children. This was much later, and when I came, but I was prepared because when I came to GreySheet, I was the baby. I was the new baby, and I had to prepare for myself. And it was really, my sponsor says, putting my food on a scale is the most spiritual thing I can do. And it's the most loving thing I can do for myself, because I actually do prepare and treat myself as I would a newborn baby. And that's what I did in the beginning. Lots of bubble baths, lots of naps. In the beginning, I would eat my breakfast, have a nap, eat my lunch, have another nap, eat my dinner, maybe go to the market for a little bit, read labels for about an hour, come back home and go to sleep. So it really is. And somebody told me in the beginning, getting abstinent is spiritual surgery. So just like surgery, if I were to have surgery on any part of my body, I would need to have rest so that I could recover from the surgery. Well, in abstinence, it's spiritual surgery, so even more profound. I was really, napping a lot for the whole first year, maybe even 18 months. And we have a slogan for that. Of course, we have slogans for almost everything. It's called bedroom slippers. So I don't know if Theta's seen my slippers, but they're really sparkly pink. And I still have my bedroom slippers 31 years later. So anyway, I started out, I can never remember feeling a part of. I can never remember feeling okay in my skin. So I believe I came out of the hatch restless, irritable, and discontent, which is the recipe for becoming a compulsive eater. So I believe I was born with this illness. To make matters more intense, I was an only child, and my mother divorced my biological father at a very young age, and we moved to Canada. So I had just my mom and me, and then she married my stepfather, who was in the military, and we moved around all the time, if anybody's been in the military. So new school, new people, I would try to fit in as hard as I could, and it never worked. And I remember each time, you would get your posting date. It's like, okay, June 13th or, June 18th, you're going to move to such and such place. And it was usually some place that wasn't even on the map because it was some obscure army base. But I'd be so thrilled. It's like, yes, I'm going to start over. I'm going to forget all these people, and I don't need them anymore. And I'm going to go find new people, and I'm going to have friends, and I'm going to fit in. And every time. So it was like the early geographical cure, right? I would go to the new place thinking it's all going to be different, it's going to be great, and it would just be the same. No matter where I went, there I was, and my same problems. So at age, so I was under eating as a child, and I learned, I think, as a very young child, especially when my mom married my stepfather, who was abusive, and I tried to love him, but he didn't love me and told me so. So I just completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, I tried to love this guy. He used to tickle me, and to the point where, like when he was dating with my mom, he would tickle me to the point where I was like laughing so hard that I almost couldn't breathe anymore. I was laughing on the outside, but on the inside, I was dying, and I wanted to kill him. It was like I had no control. And my mom thought, being on the outside, that I liked this man. And probably that was quite, a factor in her saying yes to marry him. And I remember when she told me, I'm marrying Alan, I was only 5, and I'm like, oh, it was like the worst choice in the world. Well, later, my first introduction to 12-step programs was ACA. I found out that kind of tickling is actually sexual abuse, because you kind of cause an orgasm for the small child. So anyway, that was, so I remember now. So in the beginning, when I was 6, 7 years old, I was under eating, because I learned very quickly that I could control what I didn't eat, and I got attention for not eating, and it was great, and I got real skinny, and I liked it, I felt powerful. And children will do that. They'll do whatever they can to gain control. And as a child, the only thing I could control. Does that mean I have 2 minutes left?
That's not me.
Oh, okay. To gain control, I would undereat. And then at age 11, I decided to become a ballet dancer, and that was even better. I could undereat and really get praised for it and look good in the mirror and all that. I had a big fantasy life growing up, and I thought that if I could just be famous like the people on television, that my life would be great, that everything would be okay. I'd have friends, I'd be funny, I'd be charismatic, people would like me, people would love me. So my whole life, in the back of my mind, it's like, when I get famous, everything will be okay. So I ended up quitting ballet, and the day I quit ballet, that animal of uncontrollable appetite came out. And I could not stop eating. Whatever was put in front of me, I would eat and then go get more. And I was about 14 years old, or actually 16 when I quit ballet. And I quickly learned that I could get rid of it by throwing up. And I got so good at throwing up that I could just bend over and it came out. So that became an animal of its own. If anybody's considering bulimia, good luck, because now I had not only a problem of not being able to control how much I ate, but then the bulimia was automatic. And then the thing about that is, every time I threw up, my appetite was 5 times more insatiable than before. So it would just augment and augment and augment. And at the end of the day, I never went to sleep. I would just pass out, and it was from the low electrolytes and everything. And then in the morning, I would say, I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it today. And sometimes it'd be 4 o'clock in the morning. I would be off to the 24-hour diner, having, the breakfast stuff that we do so well in America. So I tried college. I didn't succeed. I went to 3 different colleges and 3 different majors and failed at all. I had to quit. And I then became a waitress, which is a compulsive overeater's dream job. And I was a waitress for about 10 years, and I got fired from jobs because I got caught eating off of people's plates. Also, there was many times where I thought, well, if I just go to a restaurant and have a really good meal before my shift, then I won't be tempted by the food in the restaurant. And so many times I'd be at another restaurant having a really good meal and show up late for my shift, and I got fired for that. I remember once I was the salad bar girl, and there was this walk-in refrigerator where we refill all the containers. Well, I was refilling for a very, very long time in this refrigerator with nobody else there. So that was my life. It was food, and I knew that to become famous, I would need to be in a thin body. So the fatter I got, the more I absolutely needed to control this somehow. And then the more I needed to be famous to fix this problem. And then the more I needed to be famous, and it wasn't working out the way I wanted, the more I would eat. So it was just this vicious circle. And I ended up in a treatment center in Chicago. I was living in Toronto at the time, and I remember I had a 3rd-story walk-up with roommates. We had nothing in the fridge between the 3 of us except those little packets of condiments. That was it, because I couldn't put stuff in the fridge. I would eat it. It would last 5 seconds. You barely put it in the fridge, it'd be coming out again. So, and I remember it was about 3 in the morning. Again, I didn't have a bedtime. It was like, it was either binge time or pass out time. That was the only 2 times I had. And I remember it had freshly fallen snow, and I was looking out the 3rd story of this apartment building. It was kind of a bay window, and I could see from 3 sides the snow that had fallen on all the roofs of the cars, all the streets, the street lights, even the really thin tree branches that had no leaves on it anymore had a layer of snow. And it was glistening in the street lights. And I remember looking at all of this snow everywhere, and it was beautiful, fresh fallen snow, and thinking to myself, if all that snow were sugar, it would not be enough for me. I just had that realization. But anyway, I struggled. I ended up 5 more minutes, so I got to do all of it in 5 minutes. I ended up going to 2 treatment centers. One was in Houston. When I got let out of the treatment center, I knew I was going to binge again, but I also knew on the map I was this close to Los Angeles, and I thought, well, I'm this close to Hollywood, so I'm going. It was only 1 inch on the map, so I took a train and went to LA and tried to become discovered, and I ended up living in a 1966 Volkswagen pop-top camper that somebody in an acting class had given me, and he said, the engine's going to die, and but you can have it because I have nowhere to park it. So I took the van, ended up living in it, and then the very day the van broke down, it was April 1st of 1992, I checked my voicemail and there was a free bed at the West Hollywood Homeless Organization. So I lived in my van for about 7 months, and then I lived in the homeless organization for another 7 months. And it was in that homeless organization that I had, what's described in the big book as a spiritual experience. So we were talking before the meeting, I don't believe in God. I'm not a God believer. I'm a God experiencer. Like, I've actually experienced that power. And it was in this homeless organization. And the problem with the homeless organization is it had a walk-in refrigerator. And all the posh shops from La Brea would donate. Oh, let's donate to the homeless center up the street, right? So we had all these like amazing baked goods in big plastic bags. Guess who was in the refrigerator with the baked goods? Me. And, I knew I was going to go into the refrigerator and binge and throw up again. And I was just like, God, I can't do this one more day. I cannot do this one more day. And so I walked into this little room that was, maybe the size of that stage, the library with, again, donated books. And I said, God, please help. And my hand reached down. It was kind of a dark room. And I ended up picking up, by accident, this New Testament, which I had never read. I was raised completely secular. I'd never read anything from the Bible. And I opened it up. And my eyes fell to this chapter, Matthew 10:29. And it said, are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them falls to the ground apart from the will of the Father. Even the hairs on your head are numbered. So do not fear. You are more valuable than many sparrows. And at that moment, I felt this presence come into the room, which I knew right away was God. And I felt like this supernatural hug. It felt like God was just holding me close to his bosom. And I felt a belonging and a sense of love that I'd never experienced ever before in my life, or since. And I heard these words, you are worthy. And I'd never felt worthy. I thought I was a mistake. Like, I wanted to go back to wherever I came from. You are worthy, these voices said. And then it said, you never have to do that again. And I walked out of that little library and I never threw up again. And that was in 1992. But I was still compulsively eating. The reason I tell that story is because you don't need to have one of those white light spiritual experiences to get abstinent on the gray sheet. We can get abstinent in any way, shape, or form. And God, of your understanding or no God, it's okay. Just weigh a measure. That's all we need to do in this program to be successful. But the reason I tell that story is because what I understand is God is like gravity. You can't see it, you can't explain it, and you can't touch it. But it's there. The power is there. Same with gravity. You can't see it, you can't touch it, I can't explain it. But if you try and walk off the top of this church, you're going to find out that it exists, right? Same thing with God. So today, I don't have any explanation for what God is. I don't understand God. It's our third step says, God as we understood him. I don't understand God, but today I'm okay with having a God who understands me. So, and nobody ever got me before, but I understand now that God understands me, my deepest thoughts, my my darkest places are understood by God. So anyway, I got abstinent by just divine intervention. I met somebody, there was only 3 people in LA doing GreySheet at the time. I met one of them at a laundromat. She told me about GreySheet. I went to my first meeting 2 days later, and I've been abstinent ever since. And that's my time.